So hi everyone, I'm Rob Knight and I'm SUSE's CTO of Enterprise Cloud Products. I spend a huge amount of my time talking with our customers and partners about the world of cloud native, with a particular focus on how to implement a successful enterprise Kubernetes strategy. And over the next 20 or so minutes, I'm going to talk to you about the value of cloud native and Kubernetes, introduce the concept of Kubernetes management, and explain how you can implement a successful enterprise Kubernetes strategy with SUSE Rancher, which is our leading open source project for Kubernetes management. So, first, I want to give a very quick introduction to SUSE. I'm sure some of you have heard of us before. We're best known for our enterprise Linux operating system, SLES, and we've been in the open source industry for more than 28 years. More recently, however, we've worked with and productized many open source projects into commercial products all over the realm of software-defined infrastructure, from virtualization to storage. And with the rise of containers and our recent successful acquisition of Rancher Labs, we're able to support our customers with their digital transformation efforts more effectively than ever before. But we are a partner-driven company, and wherever you are in your cloud journey, we likely have a partner that can help support you. And I just also want to quickly highlight that everything we do at SUSE is in the open. We don't have any complex open source licensing models, and unlike many others, we are truly dedicated to open source. It really is in our DNA. The only thing that our customers pay for is a support subscription or for our professional consulting services. And these are just some of the projects that we've invested in over our 28-year history. But I'm mentioning this also because later on in the session, I'm going to talk about some open source projects that are also products of SUSE. And I want to emphasize that these technologies are all open source and available for you to try out for free today. You can just pull the projects and run them however you want. Now, as we've heard already, the cloud is becoming a reality for more and more workloads every day. And cloud-native methodologies are underpinning digital transformation in companies all across the globe. We're seeing cloud-connected ecosystems in pretty much every industry vertical. As customers migrate their workloads to the cloud, or they embark in new projects, they do often come across containers. And depending on what you're doing, containers can play a key part of your overall digital transformation strategy. However, a modernization strategy involving containers is only as good as the container orchestrator that powers them, as when we play about with individual containers standalone, it doesn't really drive as much business value. And this is where Kubernetes comes in, a technology that I'm sure many of you have heard about before, and a technology that is proving pivotal for container adoption within the enterprise and within the cloud. Let's start by understanding why Kubernetes is such a transformative technology. Simply put, Kubernetes enables a common compute platform across any infrastructure by automating the deployment, scaling, and management of containerized applications. And with Kubernetes, you can architect and build containerized solutions that can run anywhere, from a developer laptop to servers in your on-premise data center, or on any public cloud, but also branch and edge locations. And it does this by orchestrating the deployment, scaling, and management of containers in a consistent manner through standardized APIs. But not only does Kubernetes provide us with a great compute and container platform, it also provides a comprehensive set of infrastructure capabilities that any containerized app is going to need when running in production. Now, traditionally, this functionality may have to have been built out as part of a platform manually, perhaps using custom scripts or tooling, or a combination of open source projects. But when you embrace Kubernetes, especially when you embrace it on AWS, you get everything required out of the box. Now, The technical arguments for Kubernetes are quite interesting, but the bottom line matters most. And as an organization, you want maximum performance at the lowest cost. And you're always searching for that intersection between value and impact. Now, Kubernetes enables your business to adapt to changes in the environment, pushing out changes to your app as quickly as your teams can develop and test them. It makes it really easy to design a system where changes go out without any downtime, ultimately increasing overall business velocity. Kubernetes is also finding a home in businesses of all kinds, from large telcos and service providers through to retail and manufacturers, banks and financial services, but also government and healthcare. And many businesses have found that Kubernetes helps make their business more successful overall as they embrace that increased agility. When it comes to vendor lock-in, Kubernetes itself is open source software, and as of March 2018, it became the second largest open source project after Linux itself. Now, as long as your business is using a CNCF certified distribution of Kubernetes, such as AWS EKS, and not a feature restricted fork, your projects are never going to find themselves locked in to a specific platform or vendor again. Kubernetes also helps us maximize your investment in infrastructure, whether that's on-premise, in the cloud, or hybrid. If you choose to run apps inside of a hosted Kubernetes environment such as AWS EKS, you're already starting with a significantly reduced footprint and benefiting from the cloud model of paying for what you use. With an effective Kubernetes strategy, you can help avoid container sprawl and wasting resources. But for all of its transformative capabilities, Kubernetes can create overhead and risk if it's not managed properly. The challenge is that Kubernetes clusters are typically deployed without central visibility, which can lead to cluster sprawl or make centralized management hard. They're also sometimes deployed without a consistent approach to security policies, which can definitely cause your security team concerns. But also, when first starting out with containers in Kubernetes, clusters are typically deployed and managed independently by individual teams or projects. And when it comes to rolling out further, you need an approach that's more centralized, more scalable, and much more friendly to your IT operations team. Effective Kubernetes management can address all of these problems, as well as provide you with a multitude of additional benefits. Now, Kubernetes management is all about containing the chaos. Deploying and managing a single cluster is easy enough, but teams are going to need many clusters over time. Kubernetes management is about providing a single management tool for multiple clusters, a tool that can reduce the complexity and the need to think about standalone cluster units, and allow us to work with our entire container-based platform as a whole estate. It can make it easier for Kubernetes to be consumed by multiple teams, and ensuring that the deployment and lifecycle management of clusters isn't a bottleneck or burden to innovation. It can help provide a seamless experience wherever you're spinning up clusters, whether that's the public cloud, private cloud, or edge locations. If you do it with a good management tool, the experience is the same. Kubernetes management can give us a single pane of glass across our entire estate. Now, this helps keep the ops and security teams happy, but it also makes life easier for your developers as well. The majority of developers, based on the latest CNCF survey, prefer graphical-based development tools such as VS Code. An effective Kubernetes management can bring this intuitive graphical experience into the Kubernetes world. We can also use Kubernetes management to reduce vendor lock-in. If your clusters are deployed using a central management tool, and if that management tool is open source software, then it doesn't matter if you need to migrate Kubernetes workloads to a different cloud, as your teams only need to interact with that same management tool that's abstracting the underlying clusters. And finally, with a good Kubernetes management platform, you can utilize it to build effective platforms on top of Kubernetes. A good management platform includes best-of-breed cloud-native tooling for monitoring, service mesh, or CI/CD, and it makes it a lot easier to deploy and manage these from a single place across multiple clusters, rather than deploying and managing them on individual clusters separately. Now, whichever Kubernetes distribution or management tool you choose, you should ensure that it addresses the needs of both your dev and your IT operations teams. When I talk to customers, they express that the Kubernetes management tool they use needs to support them by running on any infrastructure and also be able to manage Kubernetes clusters in any location and on any cloud as they drive towards a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud strategy. They want a management tool that delivers unified authentication. Now, I'm sure many of you know the different clouds all have different authentication strategies, and a good management tool should integrate and abstract the pain away from those strategies and provide a unified way to manage Kubernetes authentication. But I think the most important point raised to me, though, is simplified multi-cluster operations. IT ops teams want to be able to manage the lifecycle of multiple clusters at scale with easy-to-use management tooling. They want to manage their on-premise Kubernetes installations in the same way they manage them on AKS, and they want a way to easily deploy and manage the lifecycle of apps deployed on top of these clusters. Now, this, of course, leads me to SUSE Rancher, which is SUSE's Kubernetes management tool. And this is our point of view of the world of Kubernetes management. We appreciate that it's a multi-cluster world, and SUSE Rancher has been a leader in Kubernetes multi-cluster management for more than 4 years. We provide the tooling that enables your teams to manage Kubernetes at any scale. Kubernetes distributions themselves are largely commoditized these days, and the value of Kubernetes isn't in the distribution itself. There are many Kubernetes distributions tailored for different use cases, and at SUSE, we believe that you should have a simplified management interface and API that works across all of these different distributions wherever they're running. So what I'm saying is that the business value really is now in Kubernetes management. And SUSE Rancher unites Kubernetes clusters with centralized authentication and access control, enterprise security, auditing, backups, lifecycle management, and observability. You can deploy and secure clusters consistently in minutes using our intuitive UI or our powerful CLI and API. We make it easy to manage on-prem clusters and those hosted on cloud services such as EKS, all from a single pane of glass. And finally, we have a unique approach to open source. SUSE Rancher supports any CNCF certified Kubernetes distribution and any enterprise-grade operating system. We also support managing Kubernetes on ARM and Windows, and we believe that customers should choose the technology stack that's most optimal for their use case. When we bring all of these together, we have the world's leading open source Kubernetes management platform, bundled with best-in-class open source projects. Providing a management abstraction layer on top of Kubernetes means that we can simplify operations, enable security and policy enforcement across clusters, give your developers easy-to-use tool, and provide centralized observability to countless clusters. But I also wanted to give a quick visualization of what the SUSE Rancher management platform looks like from an architectural perspective. The SUSE Rancher management server itself runs on top of a highly available Kubernetes cluster. Now, ideally, this could be a Rancher RKE cluster, but we also fully support EKS and any other certified Kubernetes distribution. And this management server will act as the central point for all of your downstream clusters. These could be RKE clusters running in EC2 that the management server itself has helped you deploy, or they can be other certified Kubernetes distributions, such as EKS. Now, there can be thousands of downstream clusters and hundreds of thousands of worker nodes, all managed via the same interface. And whatever the downstream cluster, the management server acts as the API proxy endpoint for all your dev and operations teams. They point their kubectl configs at the management server itself, rather than the downstream clusters directly. And using this architecture, we can enforce centralized authentication and security policies, or we can deploy a supported service mesh such as Istio in our downstream clusters, while being assured that the experience for all of our teams is the same, regardless of what distribution that downstream cluster is. And shifting from the architects to the operators, your ops teams get immediate visibility into all your Kubernetes clusters. The same user experience for your on-prem clusters as for your EKS clusters or any other distribution. As your Kubernetes adoption grows, this can really help ensure that you maintain control over your entire Kubernetes estate. And something unique to AWS as well, we can manage the lifecycle of your EKS clusters in the same way that you manage the lifecycle of your RKE clusters. And this means that actions such as cluster version upgrades, node maintenance, or adding those to scale out can all be accomplished via the same dashboard or API endpoint. Now, before I wrap up, I wanted to give a quick customer example. Ubisoft is one of the world's best-known gaming brands, and the company works with Rancher to transform its infrastructure into an agile and scalable environment that promotes innovation within the company. They first started with container tech around 2017, and after they brought that in, the inevitable happened, cluster sprawl, a natural byproduct of the outpouring of excitement and innovation that was taking place all over the company. With some teams working on AWS ECS, some in Docker Swarm, and some developing a hybrid mix of cloud environments, the estate grew significantly and a formal orchestration strategy became essential. And working with Rancher, Ubisoft has achieved an 80% reduction in cluster deployment time and a 20% reduction in support ticket resolution time for their end customers, along with all the other benefits listed on the screen. When we take a look at SUSE's wider stack, our approach is all about putting the control in your hands to choose the best technology to meet your needs, whether that's from SUSE or not. When it comes to running all your workloads, we know that one size Linux OS doesn't fit all. That's why we offer the industry's most adaptable Linux operating system. But the same also holds true for Kubernetes and container-based application, where we offer the industry's only platform for managing any CNCF certified Kubernetes distribution at scale. And we feel that combining these two together help give you the power to address today's business challenges and help give you the flexibility to adapt your strategy to address tomorrow's challenges as they come about. Now, Kubernetes is here to stay, and success or failure is really down to how you implement it. And I personally feel that the key to success is implementing a successful Kubernetes management strategy. So I think my main call to action today is, if you think containers or Kubernetes might be a potential target for you or your company, then head over to rancher.com and start looking at the resources and thinking about what kind of platform you want your cloud native future workloads to run on. There's all sorts of free Kubernetes training, tutorials, and other resources on there as well. If you work for a government agency, then I also recommend you head over to rancherfederal.com, where we've got our own special federal compliance distribution available. If you have any questions at any time, don't hesitate to drop me an email.